I'm going to show you some numbers that will tell a story about my struggles to become a published author. This video will be useful for anyone who's thinking about writing as a career or who would like to get into content creation and building a personal brand. Now, when I show you the data, we will see a lot of failure. But do watch out for those few little sparks that continue to give me hope. There is probably some more context that I ought to give you, but let's do it as we go on with the video. The first and most important number is 74,359. That's the number of words in my completed manuscript. This is the science fiction novel that I've written called The Forever Dilemma. I'm not going to get too much into details of what the book is about, but the thing that gives me a lot of satisfaction, no matter what happens in terms of being able to publish the book, is the fact that I actually wrote out this manuscript and got the ideas that I had in my mind onto paper and into a completed draft. The next thing we will look at is my query data. If you're a fiction writer who's trying to be traditionally published, then the typical process is to find an agent, and then the agent will try to sell your book to publishers. So in a sense, the agents are the first gatekeepers, if you will, to becoming traditionally published. So the way I did this is I used a tool called Query Tracker, fantastic tool. And using it, I identified around 150 agents who were interested in the kind of book that I had written, and I started to query them. Querying is basically a process where you send the agent some information about your book and a little bit about yourself that can help them decide if they would like to represent you or not. So I sent out a total of 43 queries, and as we can see here, 100% of them ended up in negative replies. Okay, so I said that I had identified 150 agents who seemed to match the type of book I'd written. Now, why did I stop at 43? Well, partially because the first batch of queries I sent out were not successful, as we have just seen. My thought process was that I should bring something more to the table other than just my book. And I figured that having a bit of an online presence might help. And even if this entire attempt to become traditionally published ends up not going through, then I could use that online presence and the audience that I build to perhaps self-publish the book. So I figured this would be a valuable thing to do before I start querying the rest of the agents. So how did I go about trying to build an online presence? I have ended up turning to the platform that you are watching this right now on, which is of course YouTube. And I have taken a couple of cracks at becoming a YouTuber. And what you're seeing now is not my first attempt. The first attempt was a channel that I called the Post-Mortality Digest. Now, it might be helpful to give a little bit of context about the book. So like I said, it is a science fiction novel. It's called The Forever Dilemma. The Forever Dilemma explores what it would be like to live in a world without death. If people continue to live forever, what would it do to Earth's resources? What would it do to our relationships? What would it do to the human hunger for progress? And what would it mean to live when you never die? So my idea behind creating this channel was not just to talk about my stories and my books, but I wanted a place where people could get comprehensive coverage of the science and news behind longevity and research into things such as immortality and life extension and so on and so forth. So that was the idea behind which I created this channel. Now, in terms of how it actually did, as you can see, I posted only 7 videos. I'll talk a little bit about why I stopped posting here. But, you know, the video with the most views was the intro video, which got over 600 views. And this was partially because I shared it widely amongst family and friends, which was a bit of a mistake. And I'll talk a little bit about why I think that was a mistake. But as you can see, some of the other videos, they did okay. Even though we had 59 odd subscribers, I wasn't really sure that they were interested in the topic. Okay, so why did I stop posting to this channel? A couple of reasons. The first is that science communication, I realized, was going to take a lot of effort. The thing was, even if I had succeeded at the effort and created a channel which, people loved for its coverage of all things longevity and immortality and so on and so forth, would people necessarily want to read a science fiction book on the theme of immortality? I wasn't necessarily sure about that. It might not serve the purpose in building an audience that would be interested in my book, which was the primary reason I was getting into content in the first place. The other reason that I thought I might have made a mistake with this channel is the fact that having shared it with family and friends, the subscriber base that we attracted and the initial audience that we attracted would have been one that was probably more interested in supporting me and seeing me creating, some online content, rather than people who were necessarily interested in the topic, people who were the ideal target audience for the book that was writing, which would be science fiction fans, and most of these fans would tend to be in countries like US and European countries. So it didn't necessarily bring in the right audience, and so that was the other reason why I abandoned this channel. So this channel effectively ended being written off as a bit of a failure, though I did enjoy making some of these videos, and I learned a lot about YouTube video editing and other things as part of this process, so I enjoyed every bit of it. So alright, I had given up on the first YouTube channel that I created, and I went through a bit of a crisis. I really wasn't sure how to proceed in terms of content creation in a way that would help my book. And this was part of this bigger crisis I was having, which was what I should even be focusing on in my life. Should I continue to spend time on this book and trying to make it as a writer? Or should I start pursuing some of my other interests in software or other creative areas? Faced with this little dilemma of my own, I decided that perhaps the best way to deal with it was to actually put pen to paper and start writing about it. And so that's exactly what I did. I started writing down about where things stood at the moment, what some of my concerns were, my insecurities, what were some of the options that I had in front of me. I remember as I wrote it, the conclusion just emerged in my mind. It was just a matter of writing it down on the page. And what I wrote was, I haven't done enough justice to this book. I haven't even exhausted all the agents that I could reach out to. So the path forward that I thought made sense was to try to focus more on building the audience, then try to go for the rest of the agents. And even if the whole online creation thing failed, it was still a fun creative process in and of itself. Just like I had fun writing the book, I was fairly confident I would have fun with content creation as well. In terms of what that content should be though, that is something that I had to put some thought into. Some of the things that were coming to my mind were that if I tried YouTube, it's often said that the algorithm expects you to be consistent, it expects you to really focus on things that people are searching for, to kind of jump onto trends. That just didn't sound like something that made sense to me. I realized I just wanted to share stories, speculative ideas, and my musings and commentary on various topics, not necessarily just related to longevity. That didn't sound like something the YouTube algorithm would like based on all the YouTube advice that I'd watched. But I realized that it didn't matter. It didn't really seem like there was any easy, predictable path to succeeding as an online content creator anyway. So rather than worry too much about that, why not just have fun? That was the idea I had. And so I rebooted my content game, and I decided that it would be made up of a couple of parts. One would be a blog where I just shared my written content, as well as a destination for anyone looking me up as an author. For example, if I reached out to agents, I could share this website. Most agents do ask you if you have a website as part of the process where you send them a query. And the second part of my content plan was to start a new YouTube channel, and it's something where I could just use it as a repository for my creative expression. So I started the channel Lit by Vic. Literally, the first video on this channel has me setting the algorithm on fire. I love that gimmick. Anyway, so let's look at the numbers of this channel. While I did say that I'm not hyper-focused on the algorithm, I definitely would like to see it grow because I do want to cultivate that audience. And so let's see how it's done so far. So far, I've posted 8 videos and 10 shorts. The videos have done okay. There was one particular one that crossed over 500 views, and all this has been fairly organic. I've barely shared it with people in my circle. One interesting thing I've tried is to use shorts, and the way I thought of using shorts was kind of creating these little trailers, if you will, for some of my long form videos. And I found shorts to be getting fairly decent responses. As long as YouTube chooses to put your short on the feed that it shows to its viewers, and honestly, I've not figured out how it decides to do this, but when it clicks fairly well. I even have a short that crossed 1,000 views. I think this was just last week. And I found that releasing these shorts also attracted new subscribers, which was slightly surprising. At any rate, the channel is growing slowly, but it seems to be doing so in an organic way, as far as I can tell. I seem to be having the type of audience that I would ideally be targeting for the book. Also, it looks like it is bringing me the geographies that I would like to target more. So while it's still going to be very early days with just 26 subscribers so far, it still makes me feel like I'm on the right track. Hopefully, I'll be posting a video later saying, hey, remember when we had 26 subscribers? Okay, so I suppose the theme for this video is that becoming a traditionally published author is difficult. Doing online content creation is difficult. Trying to do online content creation to grow an audience as a writer is extremely difficult. So is it all doom and gloom, or is there some hope that you spotted as I walked you through my journey so far? In my mind, there are a few things. One is I have seen a little bit of success on a couple of the videos and shorts I've put up on YouTube. That has been gratifying. It's been nice to see some of the encouraging comments as well. Secondly, just the process of thinking about this and coming up with ideas and turning it into scripts and facing a camera and speaking, it has brought me what I feel is creative satisfaction. I filled several pages of my journal just thinking through these things, and that has been a great outlet for creativity. And I suppose to summarize, the thing that gives me real hope is that my enthusiasm for this entire project has only been growing, which really is the best that I could have hoped for as a wannabe artist. Where will things lead? I can't say. All I can say is that I'm liking the way the journey is going at the moment. If you would like to be a part of this journey, as I hopefully become a science fiction author, or in the worst case, become a person who had a chance to express himself and share stories, speculative ideas, and commentary on how we could be affected by the technology that we are creating today, then I welcome you to subscribe to this channel. Do leave us a like and share this with anyone who might be interested. Thank you, and see you in the next video.